Oi, this is the Profanity Gnome, and I'm here to tell you that if you're under 13 years old, fuck off this video! Get the fuck off YouTube! Get your mama to get your dad's cock out of her ears and actually be a parent! This is for adults only! And for everybody else, enjoy the video. And don't forget to like and subscribe and comment below what you think, you fuck buckets. To stand out among the crowd, even if I gotta shout out loud, till mine is the only face that you see. Gonna stand out till you notice me. Are you sure that there's no other way we could get into space? Oh, don't be such a baby. Dad, I know we're not exactly on speaking terms, but I could really use one of those miracles right now. You know, it still probably isn't too late for us to sit down and discuss maybe a secondary plan of 3, 2, 1, blast off!
You know, gentlemen, while you're always welcome to visit, I could have arranged a dropship for you to come, instead of you going through all this.
Yeah, but what kind of opening would that have left? Oh yeah, the gents are just waiting for a dropship.
I think I understand.
This is Transformers, War for Cybertron, Episode 1, Siege. The episode begins on a war-torn Cybertron, which already I gotta give the series props, not just for the animation, but for having a conflict that's actually on Cybertron, instead of it being on Earth like it usually is. We see fighter jets flying through the cities, while laser blasts from both sides fire at each other. We then get a pretty interesting homage to the original series, with Wheeljack and Bumblebee hunting down Energon. But unlike in the original series, Bumblebee doesn't seem to be on either side at this point in time. While Wheeljack clearly has chosen his side, Bumblebee seems to be undecided at the moment and only seems to want to survive, taking jobs for hire just to get by. He was hired by Wheeljack in order to seek out some Energon. So Bumblebee takes him to a place where he knows there's Energon. But Wheeljack gets more than what he bargains for and finds a actual functioning space bridge. Probably one of the last ones on Cybertron. Bumblebee warns Wheeljack not to touch anything and just get the Energon and go, but it's Wheeljack. Of course he's gotta fuck with stuff, turning it on and seeing if it worked. Bumblebee saying, "You're an idiot and we have to get out of here now," but unfortunately, they get caught by the Seekers. This point moving forward, whatever happens, I blame you, Wheeljack. Well, here's a twist for you. The Seekers are not led by Starscream this time, but rather Jetfire. Starscream is there, and he makes it very apparent that him and Jetfire don't really see eye to eye, as Jetfire wants to maintain his dominance in command, while Starscream keeps trying to undermine him. And during a fight and tussle, Wheeljack and Bumblebee tries to use the opportunity to escape, but are then cornered by none other than the big man himself, Megatron, who just happens to be taking a stroll in the neighborhood while all this is going down. I mean, why is he here? I'm genuinely wondering that. Well, it doesn't matter, because a Decepticon Jetfire informs Megatron of the situation. Starscream is all for killing the Autobots right then and there, but this version of Megatron seems to be more diplomatic and sympathetic to the idea of them changing sides. Wait, so Megatron isn't a complete monster in this series? Megatron! This is Megatron! He eats Autobot grunt soldiers for breakfast!
They're probably gonna go for a, oh, he might be the bad guy, but he's not a bad guy sort of approach, you know? You know, that's kind of like the new thing for villains right now.
Well, we briefly cut to a nearby familiar red and blue truck en route to the situation. Megatron is continuously trying to convince Wheeljack and Bumblebee to join the Decepticons. But Wheeljack adamantly refuses. And Megatron, well, he kind of respects that, though he's not about to let an Autobot live. As for Bumblebee, well, he's not as respectful towards, because as much as he doesn't like the Autobots, at least Wheeljack wears his badge with pride, while Bumblebee is just a no-life scavenger who doesn't even want to fight. And Megatron has no respect for that. So, he decides, well, I gave him a chance. Time to kill them. Starscream is more than happy to oblige, but Jetfire seems to have a bit of reservation, but ultimately complies. But then, who should show up at the last second? Optimus motherfucking Prime! Oh yeah, we're gonna shove our foot up Megatron's ass so far
That we'll be wearing shit boots.
Well, we don't get to the righteous ass-kicking right away, but rather Megatron and Optimus engaging in a small conversation. Each one telling the other their own personal grievances in their side of the conflict. I think this is more for the audience than it is for them, but, you know, dialogue. And then, of course, when Optimus refuses to budge and Megatron also refuses to budge, this ultimately begins the fight. While they fight, though, they continue their conversation about, oh, the Autobots will never be slaves to the Decepticons. Oh no, the Decepticons were already slaves to the Autobots, and we're tired of it. Blah, blah, blah. It isn't until Optimus drops his bombshell that Megatron straight up killed their master, Alpha Trion, did Megatron finally get so pissed off because, you know, he has no justification after that one, and completely wails on Optimus, and Optimus technically loses the fight. But just before Megatron is about to deliver the final blow, one of the scouts gets headshot. Yep, sniper attack from none other than Elita 1. Wow, there's a surprise. Well, Elita 1 is very rare seeing. Well, Megatron flips out and sends his Seekers out, but because he released most of his troops, the Autobots and Bumblebee are allowed to escape. During the chase scene, though, Optimus orders her to activate some explosives that they set earlier on, which blows the bridge, allowing the Autobots to escape, and Megatron not happy. That may have been short, but it was still a cool fight! Way to go, Optimus! Ow! So we cut back to the Autobots. Pretty much all of them escaped unsound, but then the real questions arose. What exactly do they do with Bumblebee? Well, after Wheeljack vouches for him, despite being a pain in the ass, Optimus invites him to the Autobot base. At first, he refuses, but then he gets persuaded by, what better options you got there, kid? So he follows them to the Autobot base, which is actually the Ark. And now we see the big Autobot plan. They're not trying to fight for survival anymore, they're just trying to get off world. And once we get inside, it is not a pretty picture. But they're the heroic Autobots. They're supposed to be the grand leaders of truth, justice, and freedom. This definitely ain't no kid-friendly Transformers franchise. Nope. This one's showing you the big, harsh, gory realities of war. Not only giving the Decepticons a voice, but showing that it's not always about just truth, justice, and freedom. And as bad as I feel for these guys, I can only imagine what Optimus himself is going through. And going through he does, as not only Elita 1 tells him to maybe take a step back, but Ultra Magnus as well. As a second in command, he realizes pretty much the reality of their situation. They are now on the losing side, with the Autobots being pushed to near extinction. Ultra Magnus actually encourages Optimus to just stop the fighting and accept the deal that Megatron offered, in order to try to restore the planet to its former glory. But Optimus refuses. And, well, Optimus and Ultra just have to agree to disagree at this moment in time. But we then continue to the medical bay, where we meet Red Alert, who has his hands full to say the least. And don't worry, it is as bad as he looks. He does a once-over on Bumblebee, but that's when Optimus emerges and tries to offer Bumblebee a place in the ranks, but Bumblebee refuses. Because, well, he's a survivor, not a soldier. Optimus says, well, yeah, none of us are soldiers, but here we are. But Bumblebee is adamant that this is not his war, not his conflict. And it's not about survival for Optimus, it's about winning. So he tries to leave. But when other Autobots suggest if he's not with us, he's against us mentality, Optimus gives us this.
We are not the Decepticons.
Why do I feel like that statement was loaded with more than just this situation? So Bumblebee is allowed to leave, and Ultra Magnus, well, is still not convinced that they can win. But that's nothing as we cut to what I assume is the Gladiator Pits of Kaon, as Megatron has already weaseled that entire situation that happened earlier to his advantage, doing what every politician does and twists the facts, making it sound like the Decepticons are the grand noble heroes and the Autobots are just the violent rebel aggressors. And he encourages all of the Decepticons to hunt down the Autobots to do the same. And they eat it up. Well, afterwards, the only thing that Jetfire and Starscream seem to be able to agree on is that they need to hunt down the Autobot base. But they both say that they are the ones that need to do it. But Megatron is pretty much saying, yeah, there's no way you guys are going to do that. We're going to have to lure Optimus out, and we're going to have to hit him where his weakness is: loyalty, honor, and pride. But as they're discussing this, a mysterious figure who clearly is an Ultra Magnus hiding in a cape, seriously though, look at those soldier pads, who else could it be, approaches the Gladiator Pits of Kaon for unknown reasons. And that was Transformers War for Cybertron Siege, Episode 1. It is, if nothing else, very atmospheric. There is one problem with it, but I'll get to that much later on down the review line. But for the moment, it seems like a very promising series. Very atmospherical, very questioning. It definitely turns the script of Transformers on its head without disregarding everything that came forward. The Autobots aren't exactly pure and innocent, but the Decepticons aren't exactly fully guilty either. It's just the conflict of ideas and how they could be corrupted in the midst of a warring conflict. This war has definitely been going on for a while just from the tone and atmosphere of their voices, but neither side wants to give an inch for fear that the other would take a mile. So, this has a lot of promise, a lot of intriguing possibilities. And again, there is one small problem, but again, that'll come back at a later date. With that being said, we're the Cartoon Gentlemen, and we organized your chaos, and we will continue Transformers all the way through the siege.
Though I am always happy to see you, my friend Gent, I must ask, what made you come now of all times?
What, are you kidding? You're Optimus freaking Prime. This is the Transformers fandom. This is one of the best fandoms there is to be a part of. A lot of people tend to underappreciate such a good fandom that you are. And it's just my way of coming back and saying, hey everybody, don't forget about these guys. Also, on that topic, we might be here a while. You might want to roll out some guest beds. To stand out among the crowd,
Even if I gotta shout out loud,
till mine is the only face that you see. Wanna stand out
till you notice me.